Don't look down.
Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. I'm here with the coach, John Brent.
And I'm here with the vet, Mr. Ian Griffin. Look what we have tonight.
Man, we got a crew tonight. I am
stoked.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. I can feel the tension in the room. I can just feel it. So first of all, I want to go ahead and introduce our first guest. Down below here is Coach David Ingram. Used to be in Pittsburgh. Now he's in the Huntsville area. Mentor to both of us, vet. I can remember some great times in the gym back in junior high with this guy. And I got a feeling we're going to see a picture of some of these beautiful shorts prior to MJ. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Number 55, Coach. What do you think about them shorts?
Tell you what, there's something else now. All those short shorts and the high white socks.
I'm ready to bring back the short shorts. Let's do it.
And we all had white tennis shoes. And there's that big football team right there. And if everybody can kind of notice, the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth person from the right, number 4 in your program, Ian Griffin.
Yeah,
that's a little guy right
man
there.
On the team.
Smallest guy on the team.
Yes, definitely. So good to have you on, Coach Ingram. Man, you've been a mentor to both John Brent and myself, and we got nothing but the respect for you. And so I got to introduce y'all to who we got also is right below me is Ira Baldwin. Let me get that. There we go. And Ira, we got a few pictures, but I'll let you talk real quick, and I'm going to throw the first picture up here in just a second.
All right, looking for it. That's General Bismillah Mohammadi. We call him General BK. He was the former chief of staff of the Afghan National Army and then later the Minister of Defense. I know the guy personally. I had to sponsor him when I was at 3rd Army headquarters as a country desk officer. He's in the Panjshir Valley. He's going to fight back every day, every moment, as he has against the Taliban. This guy hates the Taliban. He's a good guy to have.
Heck yeah. I'm going to throw another one up here.
As a good friend of mine, he's deceased. Chief Warrant Officer 5 Curtis. He died in Afghanistan 30 days before retirement. And we talked every day about what we're going to do afterwards. And we look at the stuff that's going on in Afghanistan. It's a total waste of life, resources, national treasure, everything. I tell you, I miss him, but it was all for naught.
And then we have this guy here.
That is Smith, our code name for my Iraqi translator, who I personally helped get over here to the United States, but he's currently back in Iraq. He's got a wonderful family. Those are the kind of people that we want to have in America, not 200,000 people that we have not fully and adequately and accurately vetted to get here. I'm sorry. Not everybody needs to come to the United States of America.
Ira, totally agree with you. Hats off. So we got our crew tonight, Coach, and we're going to talk Afghanistan because tonight is the 31st. It was when it was all supposed to end, so we can make that photo op for 9/11, 20th anniversary. No other reason politically. That was just it. So I'll throw it to you, Coach. Let's get it started.
Well, this week has been a very up and down week for a lot of Americans, actually from people around the world. I've heard a lot of anger. I've seen a lot of disgust. I've seen a lot of things that people aren't happy about. So one of the things that we want to first talk about tonight is I saw the press conference. Actually, I listened to it, and within the first 2 or 3 minutes, it was blowing me away. I'm taking full responsibility, but this guy. I'm taking full responsibility, but this situation. It was a total not taking responsibility. So what I want to do is first I'm going to ask Coach Ingram, and then we'll pass it off to Ira. I got two questions. The first one is, who is responsible for the Afghanistan blunder? Because if you don't believe it's a blunder, then you're playing so much politics, you shouldn't be asked the question. But who, Coach, do you think is responsible for the Afghan blunder? And tell me what you think.
Well, what I can remember, and from some other presidents, I think back, it was Harry Truman. He had a little plaque on his desk that says the buck stops here. If you're the president of the United States, the buck stops with you. Doesn't matter what anybody else does. You have your advisors, you have your military advisors, you have the State Department, you have the CIA, you have everybody else, NSA, all these people advise you, but you have to make the decision. If you want to be with the big boys, you got to decide whatever I'm doing, it's my fault. Okay. And, what either got bad information or he didn't listen to it or he listened to the wrong advisors to tell him something. There's all kinds of reasons perhaps, but again, he's the man. Good, bad, indifferent. He's the man in charge. Okay.
Absolutely.
And, just like on his press conference. Okay. Take charge of it. Yes, that was me. I did it. And if it was wrong, ideally just admit that you were wrong. Okay. You'd get a whole lot more support if at least you would say, we screwed up. We dropped the ball on this one. But he doesn't. Like I say, he says, I'll take responsibility except for. There's no excepts. You're the man. You're in charge.
And I totally agree. And, the reason that the vet and I started this was I have a coach's perspective. He has a veteran's perspective of being in the military. And from a coaching perspective, Coach, you're totally right. If you're the head coach, anything goes wrong in the game, anything goes wrong prepping for the week, anything goes wrong, the wins, the losses in the column at the end of the year, it is the coach's responsibility to take the full responsibility of this and say, it's my fault. We should have did better. I should have did better. And I'm telling you, what I heard for 4 years about Trump was he never says he's sorry. He never takes responsibility for anything he does that might be considered wrong. And now we're hearing it from the same people. We're not hearing any apology at all. I know you are biting at the bit. I know you prepared with a glass of wine. You're ready to go. So I'm throwing this over to you because I'm ready to listen.
The blame squarely falls on the 46th president of the United States of America. Let me start by saying this here. As history guy here, I'd like to say I'm a history guy. I like to quote something from Sir Winston Churchill. It's this: if we open a quarrel between the past and present, we shall find that we have lost the future. What does that mean here? Simply that is here. The British and the Russians had engaged in the great game that began in the 19th century and transitioned throughout the 20th century here. You see, we think of the Call of Duty, we know it's a video game, but for veterans, the Call of Duty is an honor to serve the nation and do the right things all the time, even when people are not looking. This current president treats this great game that we entered in the latter part as a game. He is an amateur. He made a terrible decision. He didn't listen to his advisors. The advisors should have all resigned, walked with their feet to give him a clear, concise message that this isn't the right decision. It falls on him. He did not adhere to the things that he did in the past in 1973 when he actually sworn in as a senator. If you look back at the Vietnam War, the fall of Saigon, there's documents that clearly show that Joe Biden then, as a young senator, had a great part to do with the fall out of the Saigon, and here we are repeating ourselves. Remember that quote that I stated. And let me end with the quote here, another quote by Winston Churchill. It says, this is not the end. It's not even the beginning of the end. But what it is, perhaps, is the end of the beginning. It's Joe Biden's fault.
Man, Ira, I love the way you put that. And I'm telling you what, Vet, when I saw this question, I knew that these two guys are on here. I thought we couldn't have had two better guests for this. I'm not going to get into the next question until you actually talk about, what's going on here and who made the blunder. But this has been an unbelievable week. You and I probably talked, text, and messaged more this week than we have in any week in the last year of this show.
Coach, I agree. We really have. And, with this here is I've heard a lot of people try to divert the attention of the inefficiency of the president and his decision-making process. But the last three did it, so we can turn our blind eye and excuse it. because as long as we acknowledge the other three had hands in this, we don't have to place blame. But there's blame to be placed in this. And I've heard people say, well, how do we draw together? How do we draw together? We call out when an elected official screws up royally. I hate to say it. I'm only 52 years old, Coach. And in my 52 years of life, this is the worst foreign policy decision blunder I've ever seen in my lifetime. This lies solely at the feet of the president, President Joe Biden. He could have done this. These are the things he could have done. He could have just moved everybody out on May 1st, like Donald Trump said, and we'd have 13 people alive today. He could have easily sat there and go, you know what? I don't care about no photo op. I don't care about no anniversary. Let me talk to my allies and let me talk to the Afghani people in all my NATO alliance instead of stabbing them in the back. Maybe I should have talked to them because they left equipment there because of his decision, not because of their decision. Maybe if I'm going to pull out, maybe I should have listened to my military leaders instead of coming in with the attitude that I am smarter than all of them, which he is far not, and go, generals, what do you need? Take as much as you want, many forces as you want, do overwhelming force, make it happen. That would have done a whole lot. Maybe he should have parked a carrier fleet off the port of Karachi and have flyovers every 5 freaking minutes that would have made the Taliban scurry in the mountains again. I don't know. I'm just a darn B student. That's all I know on this. But at the end of the day, the mantle of responsibility lies with one man because one man made the decision. Nobody else made the decision to do it like he did. Nobody did. Only one man did, and that is President Joseph Biden.
Right. Well, I'm gonna end this part with this. There is no doubt he signs an executive order with a pen because he makes a decision and we move on. There's no doubt in my mind if he did not like the Trump, as he calls it, the Trump exit plan, he could have changed it. He could have made it the way he wanted to. And I actually had a student today at the prisons ask me, he never even speaks to my class. He's a Hispanic guy that actually was born in Mexico. He said, wow, he just raised his hand. And I'm like, wow, what's he going to say? He goes, why are we not talking about impeaching this guy when all we did was talk about impeach Trump? And I'm not saying impeachment, but I'm saying it's true. What he was saying pretty much is we're not even saying the same things about this guy when this is the worst thing I've seen in my 50 years. But every single thing that the last president did, it was up for impeachment. So I'm going to move on now. Now, what do you guys feel? And I hate to even ask this because this is an emotional thing that when we did one this week, I got a little emotional last week. I mean, we had 18 months, if I remember correctly, that we didn't have a casualty from an American soldier. Am I correct on that, Vet? All right. And then we have these 13. So what do you think, Ira, about the casualties that happened the last week with these 13 honorable soldiers just doing their job?
History has an ugly way of repeating itself. First and foremost, I'm madder than a nest of hornets on a parade field. You can't get no madder than that with everybody marching over you and stepping in. Earlier this week, I posted kind of a memory of the last 2 soldiers. Christian, they were actually Marines that were killed in Vietnam one day before the fall of Saigon. Okay, let's flash forward some. 13 service members got killed. Was it 10 Marines? Let me get right. 2 soldiers and 1 Navy corpsman, if I recall correctly. Unnecessary deaths. And I listened to some of the radio shows around, and I tell you, it was a surprise under the Andrew Wilkow, when one of the mothers called in. He didn't screen, he just took the call. It was one of the mothers of the son. She let the president have it. And they talked, and I saw some other stuff. The families are obviously hurt because they lost their loved one. But it was just scripted. An appearance from the president of the United States. At least the other presidents, even number 44, would give some warm hugs. This guy just gave a pat on the back, so got it. It was no love there that exuded from the president. So it's wild. I'm mad.
No, I wasn't cutting you off for time. I was saying he was looking at his watch and disrespecting when this was going on. That was one of the things I could not believe when I saw it. I thought it had to be made up. It had to be, something from somewhere else. But he was literally looking at his watch when this was going down. Coach Ingram, talk to me about the casualties.
I'm going to throw it just 1 second. But one of the family members that was there said he didn't do it once. He did it as each remains went by. He kind of did that 13 times. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what he said, you know.
The telling what I caught was that, well, because he's a devout Catholic, which he's probably be excommunicated. I don't know. I'm not Catholic at all. But the say, but he was known to have carried a rosary in his left hand. So I don't know. I don't know. Inexplicable.
Coach Ingram, what do you think about the casualties this week?
Yeah, well, I'd like just to comment again on that watch. I saw that, and I can't figure out what he was looking for. Why would you even look at your watch? Okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. What I'm trying to wonder, I just saw this today, and one of y'all may have seen it, and I don't know if it's true or not. You know, you see all kinds of things have been going on, but supposedly that the military had information that there might be something that would occur at that particular gate within a certain time frame. And evidently they didn't act on it, that they didn't close the gate. I don't know if they notified anybody on there. I'd say what I saw when they talked to, I think it was someone either in the Defense Department or at the Pentagon. They said, well, we're not going to comment on this because this was leaked information that wasn't allowed. Now, leak information it shouldn't be allowed anyway. But this was reported by, I think it was Politico, reported that they did have some information that an attack was imminent at that particular gate. And they could have pulled the people out. They could have just stopped and pulled them out, and they refused to do so. So that just seems strange to me. Like I said, I don't know if it's true or not. That's just what I saw today.
Well, one of the things that I don't know, and we have two vets here that were both in Afghanistan or Iraq. I don't know if you were in both of those arenas, but in a situation like this comes up when there's a bunch of people around that not only are civilians, but also people that are, an enemy. Do you actually have control of the situation by allowing everybody to be in the same area? Why did we not take control of that area? Did we not have enough troops? Was it told on the ground, just get people through? We don't. But I don't understand why there wasn't a perimeter around, maybe half a mile out, 3/4 mile out, and you then allow people in. And if they try to come in, you fight them because you're protecting your people. Did we not have a checkpoint way off to say, yes, you can come in, no, you can't, or we just weren't in control at all of this situation?
Well, what I heard, and y'all can match me up on this, that in the negotiations, supposedly the Taliban said, you can have the airport or we'll give you the security of the entire city of Kabul. And we took the airport, which meant we have, I guess, from the gates to the airport in. Anything outside of the gates belonged to the city, and therefore the Taliban was in charge of that. So I guess that's why they said, well, we couldn't have a checkpoint, like you say, 1/4 mile, 3/4 mile, somewhere to check to see if somebody comes in. Because you ought to know, if you have some idea that there's going to be a problem, that there could be an incident, and you know good and well with as many suicide bombers that they have, it's like anything else. If somebody wants to get in there and do something, they're going to do it. And if they're not worried about, if they're determined to kill themselves doing it, then they're hard to stop.
Yeah, Ira, what do you think on that?
I think Coach Ingram is spot on. Now, I spent some time at Kandahar Airfield. That was a very defensible base. And I say that was a very viable, very big base that we could have had a base in the south and then up in north in Bagram, as well as Kabul itself and Hamid Karzai Airport. Hamid Karzai Airport, like any particular major capital airport, is in a kind of an urbanized area, almost virtually indefensible. It was a bad decision making. What they thought was the art of negotiation. They didn't read Trump's book, The Art of the Deal. But bottom line is that was a little pun intended. But they were amateurs. They were chock full of amateurs that were recycled from the 44th administration, and they made a terrible, terrible, terrible decision that got 13 people killed, Americans, and I think 175 or more killed Afghanis and scores wounded. Indefensible. I mean, right now, I'm gonna tell you my greatest desire, and I hope the hell like the Taliban knuckleheads are taking a big dump or big swim, I should say, in the poo pond at Kandahar Airfield. You know what I'm talking about.
So one thing I'll say on this here, and I'll get to 13 here in a minute, Coach, but I want to say this, is it was apparent, and there were some comments that supposedly were made from General Milley, a reason why we didn't keep Bagram on the 18th and why we had to go to Kabul, is because the mission that was dictated was for us to secure the embassy to the end. Okay, so with that the comments, the way it is, it alludes to that the POTUS was not willing to give more troops also at the time with this, and until it went to Kraft, then he had to give more troops. So they wasn't allowed to go past the 2,500, one, and then two. So what that tells me is all major decisions were made from D.C. instead of on the ground. And I'm not talking D.C. from the Octagon building, or the Pentagon building on the other side of the Potomac. I'm talking decisions were made at that white building at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue on the east side of the Potomac. Closing the gate was made, from my understanding, not from the Pentagon, but from on the other side of the Potomac. We've said this many times, and I'm not sitting here trying to get in parties, but Jesus, they always fall to this, is one party likes to make those micromanaging decisions where the military knows what to do. Just unleash them. It's all you got to do. Let the collar off is all you ever had to do. You would have got your photo op. You would have got everything you wanted. All you had to do is one thing. General, go make it happen. Take everything you need. Do you need any more? That's all he ever had to say. And he wouldn't be stumbling all over himself looking like a fool. And it saddened me because he is my president. And even though I am disgraced by a lot of his actions, I wanted him to succeed because America has failed because he has failed. Now, with the 13 coach.
Yeah, go ahead.
They never had to die. If he would have ever just turned it over to the generals, if he would have ever done flyovers to the port of Karachi, if he'd have stuck to the May 1st deadline, they would have never had died. That's what's crazy. If he just stuck with the May 1st deadline instead of ripping it up going, oh, President Trump made that decision. It can't be good for me and my party. I got to make another one. I got to have my photo op for all my Democratic parties, guys, on September 11th. You know, we took a knee one time. Now we're going to stand up and do it on 20th anniversary. Some freaking horse shit. We put people's lives in danger. And what did I ask on the podcast in April, Coach? I asked this very question. What will Joe Biden tell those families when he pushed that deadline past May 1st, when somebody dies between May 1st and September 11th? What will he tell those families? It was important for me to have my photo op. Sorry about your child, because that's exactly the message he has delivered to our nation.
Yeah, playing politics costs lives, because if he would have just stuck with the plan, good, bad, or ugly, those 13 people would be here today. And if he did push it back, what he should have done. Now, I'm a civilian. I'm not ever been in the military, but we've talked about this all week at school. Why did we not send a group of troops, 20, 30, 50, 60,000 before this to prepare the area to get everything ready to have an exit plan? Why did we start taking troops out before we started taking civilians out, that we promised them that if you help us, we will get you out? That was one of the questions that I don't know why it wasn't done that way. Ira, you was there. Bet you were there. What's going on?
Coach, I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm going to throw it to Ira. Ira, you and I both know they had 6,000 troops after they realized they did a screw up. You and I both know a division or two divisions would have solved all this, but that wouldn't have been politically correct. I mean, go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead, Aaron.
I kind of look at the long fight. I call it the long fight. One brigade combat team with some air assets. This did not have to happen the way it happened. We still have somewhat of a presence in Japan, in Germany, in Italy, wherever we are for the past 7+ years. This is the longest war, if you will, America has been involved in. I know it had to end someday. First of all, there are over 63 tribes. They hate each other. They've never gotten along. The warlords, the drug lords run this thing. But you know what? They played the United States of America. They played this president. They know power. We didn't enforce power. I'll tell you what, had the president played power like the last one, we could have gotten what we want. We could have minimized any type of casualties on the civilian side. We probably wouldn't have again, I'm Monday morning quarterbacking here. It's just one freaking mess. And remember this here, Democrats, they love a good crisis, and they're going to take great advantage of this crisis here. It is what it is. There's an old saying from the old Vietnam War veterans, and I talk to those guys every day. It says, what? It don't mean nothing. And I hate to say that, but lives do matter. We'll miss those warriors. They'll always be remembered in my heart. Notice I wore my shirt here, and I think about even the Lieutenant Colonel, the Marine who sacrificed his career. I look at the same Lieutenant Colonel Army Vindman who was outspoken, who testified against the president, sitting president. Nothing happened. There is no justice here in America anymore, the way this party has it. And it angers me. I don't even know how to talk. I control my emotions now because I've lost a lot of people throughout my career. I've buried a lot of people. And I tell you, I hate to see 13 families torn apart because of the bad decisions of this administration. It pisses me off.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Coach.
You know what? I understand it. It's very emotional time. What I want to understand, just we have a person in Pittsburgh that we grew up with that lost a son 10 years ago in Afghanistan. So what I would like to find out from you guys, because you've been around it, all the people that have died in Afghanistan in the last 20 years, wonder what their families today think when they saw this last week and a half. Wonder what Reese Norris and his son Cody that served and did. He died for us. Wonder what when they saw this shit going down. Excuse my language.
Yeah, Coach, I don't have an answer to that. And what I'll say is Gold Star families, moms and dads and husbands and wives, they're the ones who are left after the loved one is gone. Those Gold Star families have gone through so much. And I got a piece that comes out in a couple of days, and I write about it a little bit, is, things that you and I, that we all enjoy, they can never enjoy. They can never enjoy a birthday again. They can never enjoy a holiday because their loved one won't ever be there again. And, that is tragic. And some people just kind of overbrush it. And the president, to be honest, like one of my family members said, it wasn't about his son. It was about those 13 when he was speaking. And it was supposed to be addressed to what those 13 are going through, to be honest, and what those 13 family members are going through. And like also what you brought up, Coach, is the almost 2,500 or 2,600 individuals that we lost over their total throughout these 20 years. Some of them are probably questioning, was this done for no reason? Because we just abandoned everything the way we walked out. And we got to get Coach Ingram on here and let's see if he got any thoughts, and then throw it back over to Ira and then move forward. So go ahead, Coach.
I was just wondering, and Ira had talked about we have troops in South Korea, we have troops in Germany, we have troops in Japan, we have troops heard today, there's troops in Jordan, we have troops all over the place. Why did we not say, okay, we could pull some out, but if we have these troops in all these other countries, why could we have not left a force there for the same reason that we have in South Korea and Japan and Germany? I would think that we could still, even if we say if we want to say the war is over, which against a group like the Taliban is probably never over per se, is why couldn't we left some of those troops or had at least keep a presence there for a little bit longer?
Coach, you're spot on. I'm gonna tell you like this here. Once you get near the end zone, kind of a sports analogy here. Once you get in the end zone, you got to run all the way through. It's hard to start back at your end zone and run all the way. Because if we may actually have to go back in Afghanistan at some point in the future. Two things that come to my mind. First, if you remember, kind of our age of here, maybe some others haven't read the literature, but you remember All Quiet on the Western Front with John Boy, I can't think of his name, where he got shot in the last moment of the last day of the war. The British had to learn a hard lesson with their generals in charge. The close of World War I, just before the 11th hour, the 11th day, the 11th month, they actually had an offensive. Many thousands of British soldiers lost their lives just to get a last mad minute in, and they didn't have to. Unnecessary deaths. I equivocate this action of this president to All Quiet on the Western Front and that British acts incident during World War I. And another thing, if you remember the poem from Rudyard Kipling called the Young Soldier, where if I should die on the Afghan plains and the women come to cut up what remains. If you read that, it can give you a little perspective about that. It's a little stark, but it serves as a stark reminder to us. This should have never happened, and I pray to God it never is repeated in the future, because we're going to have another war. And the best thing probably can go for Afghanistan, I'm going to say this here very quickly, it's going to be very stark, very cold, maybe a civil war. Because remember, no one voted to get the Taliban in, but they came in at the point of a gun. So you got people, like I mentioned with General Bismillah Mohammadi, and the vice president of Afghanistan who stayed. They need to stay. They need to fight. And maybe they can wrest the country back in some years. I don't know. They're going to have to fight it out. It's going to be ugly.
So, Ira and Coach, so first thing I'll say is I had discussions with one of my brothers on this, and we really, the reason why we pulled out was all political at the end of the day. I mean, that's all it was, is political. The United States of America normally doesn't associate with a contractor or anything like that. All they associate with is what the congressman tells them to associate with, which is troop end strength. We could have 1,000 soldiers there and 20,000 contractors. America don't care about the contractors. All they care about the 1,000 soldiers. That's all they care about, because that's what politics sells. So we had 2,500 people there, did not have attack in 18 months. We realistically could have kept that 2,500 shadow brigade there for the next 20 years. It was enough to provide resources to the Afghan Air Force, and it kept the Taliban in check. Once we cut the resources to the Air Force is when the Taliban started gaining momentum. The BS that we're hearing in the news and the speech today is complete BS on that. The bottom line is once he cut the resources and cut the people out to the Afghan Air Force, then the Taliban started growing in the last 8 weeks really quick because they wasn't scared of getting bombed. What I will say is there's been a talk about a failure in the intel community. And I say, no, not necessarily. There's been a failure for us to understand how the Taliban viewed the weakness of the president. That we missed. We did not expect them to view him that weak. And they did, and they exploited it and took a nation. They took a target of opportunity like anybody else would, and they ran with it. And he lived up to it because he didn't do a damn thing, to be honest. He didn't do a damn thing. And that was the intel weakness, was that right there. It wasn't anything else. We had everybody else ping, 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 except that right there is we underestimated how they saw how weak our president was. And he lived up to it. Go ahead, Ira.
Remember this here. The score now is 3. 3. Think that in mind. Remember, this current president was a senator at the fall of Vietnam. It was the Vietnamization of the war where we were going to have the Vietnamese fighting their war, but it was the Democrats who voted against the bill to provide the resources for the Army Republic of Vietnam to fight the war and to be successful. We abandoned them then. This current president just abandoned, he just did the same thing. He repeated history. And I tell you like this here, it's wrong. And I tell you, if I were a foreigner, help the Americans, I probably wouldn't want to assist the Americans in the future, knowing that I'm going to be abandoning. I'm sorry, it makes our job much harder. It's crazy. I have too many thoughts going up here now. I'm almost Biden. Help me out.
That's a perfect.
I can barely hear you, Coach.
Well, that's the perfect time for us to go into the next segment. Vet, I know you've probably got an advertisement coming up, but I said that's probably a good time for us to pull it into the next segment, because that's what we're going to talk about. And I think you have some type of advertisement you want to put up. But Ira, I think the next segment, Coach, also this is going to be a really good thing for us to talk about.
Okay, so what we got here is, hey, we're the Coach and the Vet. Come see us on the coachandthevet.com. Buy some of this stuff here if you don't mind, because this is actually how we pay for the podcast, is this right here. Thecoachandthevet.com. Come visit us. Come check us out so we can keep the podcast going. And with that, we're going to move along because we got some other things here to talk about, but it's all Afghanistan tonight. So the first thing I'm going to throw out there, what do our allies feel about us right now after the great decision from the POTUS? That is the question we got right there. And I'm going to throw it over to Coach Ingram first, and then we'll get to Ira after that.
Okay, good question. After the president said that all our allies really supported us, has told him that he did a great job, and at the same time, you hear them in Parliament in England saying how terrible it was. I believe there were people, our allies in Germany, saying how terrible it was. And I'm sure there are other comments from other of our allies. Like I say, they feel like we pretty much just stabbed them in the back. You know, we're going to go our own way. And as Ira was saying, they're not going to, next time the United States is going to say, well, we need this coalition to work together to take whatever steps we need to take. Some of them will say, well, wait a minute. We did this one time, and what did you do? You just decided, unilaterally, you're just going to end everything and just leave all this stuff out here, leave also this equipment out here and everything else. So why should we go along with you? And it also seems to me, that what the Taliban has done, at least through our president, or makes it look like to our allies and our enemies, if you want to call them that the United States is becoming what used to be called a paper tiger. We don't back up what we say we're going to do. We're going to just take the easy way out. We're not going to stand up for what we need to stand up for. And we're going to take care of ourselves. We're not worried about anybody else. So I think we're losing prestige, not only with our allies, but now the Chinese and the Russians see us, the United States, I think they see it as a weakness. As long as we have President Biden, they see him as a weakness, and they can pretty much do whatever they want to do.
So, Coach, I'll say a couple of things, and I'm going to throw it over to Ira real quick. So, first thing is, when the decision was made and the president came out and he said, well, hey, I've heard nothing but great comments from Europe. My wife called her brother and told her about that, and he started laughing. He goes, they are actually freaking livid over here in Germany. And rarely have I ever heard anybody laugh towards our military. I have never heard that ever. And he was laughing like they are freaking livid over here. And then the second thing, with that is, as you stated, Coach Ingram, is also in the British Parliament, heavy in the British Parliament. It also feeds the French. They've been wanting us to be separate from them since World War II. But I'm going to throw it over to you, Ira.
Well, being that I live here in the South, I love the sound of the 17-year cicadas. Only damn thing I've heard, crickets. Coach Ingram, you said it earlier. Our allies, or what our so-called allies now, they have no confidence in our ability to lead in this free, westernized society. Everybody from Australia down under to the UK to England, the British, everybody. And you spoke of Germany. I've got a friend of mine who loves the current president, but I haven't heard anything from him. This creates such big problems that's far-reaching. It's obviously going to create a much larger refugee situation on the bordering countries. Okay, this is not like you have a country where you have an ocean side or access to where you can get the ships like we did before and evacuate people. But the problem is, you got other countries going to have to face the problem with the refugee situation. Those countries are not going to openly and willfully accept those evacuees, those refugees. This creates a NATO problem. We know NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It creates a problem. We were the glue. That glue is gone. He said build back better. He tore Trump's wall down, but he sure as hell build back better a wall with our allies. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt for the long run. The only fix for this here is probably he needs to step down and resign. That's what I say. I don't know. Our allies, it's not over. They're going to talk more and more. You've had some countries calling for the G20 meeting. We'll see. I just make me want to watch slasher horror movies and so, because this is a horror show and those other movies it's just, I don't know. It's a relief just to watch a horror show instead of this mess. Coach, I don't have any answers. I'm going to throw it back over to you.
I'm going to throw it to the coach.
Well,
thanks, Ira.
Yeah. Well, one good thing that I've seen this week is what it shows is when you see weakness as a coach looking at a football team on the field or another coach, you can smell weakness. And there's no doubt that these foreign leaders, foreign governments, people involved in that are our allies and even our enemies, it's easy to see a weakness. And the people in the states that do not want to say that this president made a blunder and this shows weakness to the world is playing 100% politics. There's no doubt that this shows weakness. Like Trump, like Barack Obama, like Clinton, like Bush, like them or not, they didn't show weakness at times when something like this would come down. I hate to say it, I'd rather have Barack Obama than this bumbling idiot, because at least I felt like he was in control at times. And maybe you don't want somebody as strong as Trump because it makes you feel bad, your feelings get hurt. But do you think George W. Bush or Ronald Reagan or even LBJ with this kind of situation would happen like this? They would be strong. They would say, we are the United freaking States of America. And you're not going to dictate what we do to get our people and friends out. We're going to dictate to you how we're going to do it. If you don't like it, we're going to send in 1, 2, 3 brigades, whatever we have to, because we're the United freaking States of America. And that's not what you feel right now. There's people now that don't fear us. And do you think these people that are terrorists around the world, Al Qaeda, if you see the ISIS and Taliban, fear us because of this? No, they literally think we finally won against the United States of America. This is an absolute debacle, a nightmare when you're trying to show we're a superpower. This should never happen.
So I'm going to throw us a couple of things here. This is a recruiting agenda for the Taliban right here. Big time. It's like, come with us. We just kicked their ass. Dude, we got the president buckling right now. Come to us. And guess what? They won't do that drone strike 2 days later in the mother of all bombs like Trump did. He's just going to go pick out a low-level guy. Y'all come in mass droves. So speaking of that, we lost 13 individuals in our retaliation. And remember, we had no intelligence before that this would ever happen. That was from the most transparent White House press secretary ever stated those things. We had that. So then all of a sudden we creeped in that ISIS-K might be here. ISIS-K might be here. How convenient that is, to be honest with you. But moving along, since we had 13 individuals who died from a bad decision, who are brave soldiers and service members, sailors and Marines out there, they died from a bad decision and deserve way so much better. We decided to do a drone strike on an ISIS-K planner. I don't even know what that is. I would like to know who the hell that is, because at least with Trump, We got who we killed. We don't even know who we killed on this. And if you're going to retaliate, I'm throwing it out there, and I'm going to throw this to each one of y'all. I'm expecting something like 911, 2,996 and 19. I'm expecting at least 100 people for every one of our people that died. I am, because that's how you deter terrorism. Because well, we can't recruit nobody because they're going to kill 100 of them, But hey, we're just going to lose one of them. One of you is going to get 72 versions or whatever, so be it. Come on, guys, in the masses. That's what's going on. We helped their freaking recruitment campaign with that there. I was expecting, I'm the president, I'm coming out to let you know this right now. The military has just obliterated a freaking whole community of freaking Taliban and ISIS-K playing cards together, and there was at least 100 of them. But that was not what we got. So I'm going to throw it over to you, Ira. What are your thoughts on, did we retaliate enough? Or are we just somebody that does a lot of words and not deeds?
Right now, we're definitely all smoke and mirrors and words. And Coach, you kind of hit, you talk about recruiting. I was a recruiting company commander from the 2nd Command when the war hit in Afghanistan and here in Atlanta. And my delayed entry program, I had about maybe 200 people in. Over half the delayed entry program quit. I caught hell as an Army recruiting company commander. It was freaking disastrous. So not only is it going to increase their recruiting potential, but it's probably going to decrease our recruiting potential over the long run. Let's look at this here on both sides of the water here. Over in China, Taiwan. Let's think of the word hegemony. China wants to be the big dog in the world with 1.3, maybe 1.4 billion people. They are not fearless anymore because they have a bigger navy than ours now. I think we are supposed to have a 330 ship navy. China is going to own Taiwan here shortly. They're going to walk all over. And let's look on the other side. Let's look at Russia. Russia wants what? Ukraine. What Russia wants to reinstate or reincarnate their Russian empire. We have a problem. What's that? Houston, we have a problem. It's a big problem all the way around, and it's a big turd sandwich, and we all got to take a bite.
No doubt. And it comes down to this, I've never been in the military, but it's very easy to figure out. If you do not fear the enemy, you go and do things that you normally wouldn't do if you did fear them. If you fear that there's going to be retaliation from the big dog, from the president sending the big military over there, you're going to stay back because you have to think about what's going to happen if I do that. There is no person in the world right now with any kind of power that fears Joe Biden and now fears this military that's being run because he's the commander in chief. He's the big dog. And that's scary that he's the big dog. I don't even know how can you even say big dog and Biden in the same sentence. It's kind of weird.
Remember this, and I heard this a long time ago, and I real quick, and I think it was Winston Churchill. I mean, I love history. History just teaches me everything. Evil reign where good men do nothing. So help me out where you've heard that from. Evil reign where good men do nothing. He promised to be good, to get America back on equal footing around the world. What he's done, he's tripped us like he tripped 3 times going up Air Force One. The guy's a freaking walking disaster. I have no better way of putting that. I'm not going to be nice to Joe Biden for the next however many months or 3 years and 4 months he's got left. I'm going to hit him every day. I loathe that 46th president of the United States.
So, Coach Ingram, I got to hear your thoughts. Did we retaliate enough? Did we not retaliate enough? What are your thoughts on that right there?
Well, see, that's what I was saying. It seemed like after all this happened, he came on with this big talk. We're going to hunt those people down. We're going to take care of them, whatever it takes, wherever we got to go. We're going to take care of the people, this organization or these people that started this attack. So what do? We bomb one car, like you said, Ian, is a planner. Well, what does that mean? What does a planner do? Does he sit there and set up dates? That's what a planner does. He plans. And then not only that, of course, there's always, as they say, there's collateral. We don't even know if the guy was in there or not. All we do know that evidently they killed about 6 kids and some other people. We don't even know if there was a planner in there or not. They haven't said a name. And if you blow him up, there's not going to be much left anyway. So who knows? And then that's it. That's all we're going to do. He doesn't come back on and say, well, that's one. We're going to get so-and-so. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. No, he makes all these statements, one little drone strike, and that's it. Well, like I say, who's going to be scared of that? You know, that's like you tell you're going to do something, and then you don't do it. You know, as a teacher, you don't ever do that. As a coach, you don't say, well, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. And then they do it, and you don't do anything. Well, that just blows you up completely. Nobody's going to listen to you anymore.
Well, I'll say this is, we sit there, and you hit it spot on in my mind, Coach, is we really don't even know. We were told we had, no credible evidence that everything would happen this fast with the Taliban and all this other stuff. But now we have credible evidence all of a sudden of this one planner that we bombed the bejesus out of. But we didn't have credible evidence before. So I just see the spin cycle of the White House press corps, the State Department press corps, the president himself. They're just spinning this going, please make it go away. Please make 911 hurry up and get here. Please make this go away so I can get my win out of this and we can change the narrative. And that's going to bring up to my next topic here is we got about 9 minutes left. And I am vowing that we will not forget those 13 individuals for the next, 3 years, 4 years, or whatever. They should not be in vain. And what I'm saying is they were doing nation's bidding off of bad decisions, and they were out there to hang and dry. We should not forget them because I will tell you right now, we've already seen the president, as he discusses his son just as much, who did not die in combat, died from cancer, and he tried to relate that there. And I'm sorry that he lost his son because I don't think anybody should ever go through that as a parent. But right now, these families needed to hear how much he cared about them and not how he was trying to spin it so he could kind of relate to them in some shape or form or fashion is what they needed to really hear. So I think that truthfully, that we definitely need to make sure we do not let this just become a part of 2021's message and it's just an afterthought. That's just my thoughts. So I'm going to throw it over to you here real quick, Coach. Go, Coach Bachman. So
Sure. Hey, I'm going to tell you right now, one of the things that I thought about when I was hearing this speech twice this week from President Biden was when he said that we're going to go after these people in the memory of these 13 that they killed. I remembered back to a pile of rubble that George W. Bush was standing on with a bullhorn. When he said that sooner enough, the people that knock down these buildings are going to hear from us, I get chills saying it, but I believed it. America believed it. The world believed it. And you know damn well that Al-Qaeda believed he was coming after their butt. Did anybody, when they heard this whispering president say that we are coming after you, had any fear at all or any trust at all that it was really going to happen? No, because no one puts this president in any ballpark of strength. They put this in the ballpark of what he is. He's a weak president. He is the one that coddles his party, and he's the ones that coddle the left so he can stay in power. Because believe me, the only way he gets elected is they allow him to be elected because they know exactly what's going to happen. Weakness. And that's exactly what they want America to be mostly is weak. You had a really strong president that talked crap and all of them ran to the hills with their hands up fearful because, oh my God, it's a mean tweet or a rough day at the podium. But what you needed this week was a tough guy at the podium telling the world we're coming to get your ass, and they know we're coming to get your ass. And we don't have that.
Coach, so what I'll say real quick is George W. Bush exuded confidence, and President Biden has tried to exude it, but he doesn't. And I'll give you a case point example real quick is when George W. Bush, before 9/11 became president, I flew over to Germany. I read an article out of it's either Newsweek or U.S. News and World Report. I can't remember which, but it was about the no-fly zone in Iraq before 9/11 ever even happened, that who would enforce it. And Clinton had said, we'll enforce it. Europe didn't worry about it. George W. Bush said it one time, and Europe freaked out because they believed him. That was the difference. The problem is nobody believes, and why would we? Because we were told, previously that the ISIS many years ago was just the JV team. That come from the administration that Biden was on. We kind of know what happened in Benghazi. Who was the vice president? Hello. We also know on this right here is he told us that there's no way the Taliban will overrun it. Well, we know one thing about Joe Biden. He's not a freaking fortune teller. I can tell you that right now. I wouldn't trust him at all. When he gets the predictions. He also came out and said 2 weeks ago, we would not leave anybody there. And what did we just do? We don't have time to talk all this, but we turned our backs on our people that are our own citizens and said, I gave you 18 messages. You should have figured it out. And for those that don't know, you mean you wanted them to hike over mountains and hills through the Taliban who might execute your entire family for 400 miles to get to the Kabul airplanes? Of any place, Kabul was the worst one.
Yeah, I felt like today, real quick, that he was actually blaming the people for not getting there through all this. He's blaming the people that can't get through the terrorists.
Exactly. And I will tell you, if you had your family and you knew what you had to go through, you would be petrified to leave your household to begin with. And you would want some assurances that you would be safeguarded, or not your passport ripped up in front of your face and go, if you gripe about it, we're going to take advantage of your wife. We're going to marry your 2 daughters, and we're going to do this right here and probably behead you afterward. We'll let you watch after we behead, and then we'll behead you. Stuff like that. Kim, I'm sorry we didn't get to the kill list, and because there has been some confrontation in regards to that. I saw your notes on it. I agree wholeheartedly on it. But there's been some kickback from the State Department saying it wasn't released, although the POTUS said he did release it. So we don't know on all that right there. So I got to throw it over real quick. I got to throw it to Coach Ingram, and I got to throw it to Ira. Each one of you got about a minute, and then we got to get out of here. Okay, guys? So.
Okay, the only other thing that I would say that relates to this and some of the other things, one thing that Biden came up with was, transparency. Everything's going to be transparent. We're going to tell everybody. No, we're not. He hasn't been transparent on what's been going on. His whole administration has not been transparent of what's happening. And so why would anybody, our allies or anybody else, why would they believe him when his whole idea was to be transparent and it's been anything but?
I agree with you, Coach Ingram. So I'm throwing over to you, Ira. What you got?
In the words of Joe Biden, remember this here. Look, here's the deal, man. Come on. Biden lied. People died. Keep your eye on China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. Go, guess what? They're sharks. They smell a drop of blood in the water. They're going to come for us, or they're going to come for the world, if you will. Keep your eye on them. And, just pray. If you're praying, if you believe in God, then so be it. Believe in God, pray. But you know what? We're living in some tough times now. But as Americans, we have to stick together. One, we have to love one another. And this too shall pass. I believe that. Let's stay strong for one another. Let's pray for the service members who lost their lives and their families. And let's just keep our head up in this game.
Go ahead, Coach.
Well, last thing I'm going to say is, remember when 2022 comes around, remember when 2024 comes around, those 13 people that died, remember the debacle that this was from a world stage. You're not a foreign policy team at all or president. And what are you doing domestically with this COVID and stuff? 2022 and 2024, if this does not turn, America's going to a place I don't know what America will be then.
So I will say this has been a great episode. We got to remember those 13 no matter what every day. They had lives, they had futures, they had families that they were planning. So one was about to be a father. They had hobbies. They were fun to be around from what everybody says, and we all know that. And our life as America, we just got shortchanged 13 people over a decision that was a bad blunder, which will go down in history as probably one of the worst decisions in 50 years, to be honest. And from that, I'm going to say, from the coach
and to the vet,
it is time for us to stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned.